Welcome to Motherhood and Grace, encouragement for the weary mom, a new series where I'm going to meet with different women to have honest conversations that I hope will bring you encouragement no matter where you are in your motherhood journey. I'm Anna Cirlot, the CEO and founder of the Faithful Storyteller community, and I'm so glad that you're here. This series is all about sharing real stories, faith-filled encouragement, and the grace we need as moms in every season. Today, I had the absolute joy of talking with my friend Chanelle Holley of Chanelle Holley LLC, who offers graceful and disciplined living for Christian moms with her coaching program. Chanelle is an incredible woman of faith, a mother, and someone who truly understands the beauty and the struggles of this journey. We're going to talk about her story, her challenges, and the grace she's found along the way. So Chanelle, welcome. I am so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Anna. It is always a pleasure to see you, my friend. And thank you so much. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
So let's start with your journey, Chanelle. Can you share a little bit about your motherhood story and what it's looked like and what has surprised you the most?
For me, motherhood has definitely been a journey of mixture. And what I mean by that, it's definitely had its most beautiful moments, moments that have absolutely made me laugh, moments where I've had so much joy from my three beautiful children. And then on the flip side of that, there have been moments in motherhood of utter chaos, trial and error.
I completely
Um,
understand.
yes, trial and error, utter chaos at times, times where I just have found myself throwing my hands up and just really leaning into God to just have more grace to do all that motherhood requires, right? Because if we're honest, motherhood is a commitment that can really pull us as moms, as women, and in some cases as wives into many different directions, whether we are taking our kids to sports programs or different activities or being active in their school or being active in something with their faith, with church. You know, motherhood can definitely have a toll on us as well, if we're honest. And so I embrace all of that. I embrace the beauty that it brings, that motherhood brings, the joy, the joyful moments, because the fact of the matter is that motherhood is a blessing and is a gift from God.
Mm.
And I understand wholeheartedly that not every woman is able, for one reason or another, to walk in these shoes. So I'm very sensitive to that. And so I'm grateful that God gave me this opportunity to be the mother to my three children. But yes, I embrace all of it, the good, the beautiful, and the not so good. And again, like I said, the times when it's had its utter chaotic moments as well.
No, I absolutely love your heart, and I can completely relate on so many levels there. I feel like as a woman, I had no idea how much I was going to be stretched when I became a mom. You know, what our in our family, we have 4 children at home, and then we're on an adoption journey where we're trying to bring other children home as well. And so in the end, I will have a total of 11 children in my home. And I can honestly say that nothing has been harder in my life than my motherhood journey, but yet it's so sanctifying and so beautiful at the same time. I
Absolutely.
love being a mom, and I know you feel that way, which is why it's so wonderful and so refreshing to connect with you and to hear your heart
Yes.
about motherhood.
It is very much a blessing, like you said. I think most of us have probably thought about being a mom even since we were little girls, if we're honest.
Right.
Just the thought of it has captivated us, and we've dreamt about what it would look like. And so, yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
I remember my sister used to tell me that when I was little, I used to tell them that I was going to have a whole lot of kids so I could have more Mother's Day gifts than everyone else.
Everyone else?
Perspective has changed on it a little bit over the years, where those Mother's Day gifts don't quite outweigh all the chaos that motherhood brings into my life.
Well,
How even as like little girls, God gives us a desire to become moms and to have
yeah,
children. And I think especially in our culture to say, yes, it is hard, but yes, it is beautiful is so incredibly important. And which is
yes,
why we want to be on here and have this honest conversation about motherhood. because God is in the midst of the hard right now, even in the things that we
Absolutely.
didn't really expect.
I agree exactly with what you're saying because I think for me, it's always been important to be very transparent in terms of my journey because if we're honest, we can get really caught up in mom comparison and Instagram comparison, if you will, social media comparison, getting caught up with what it may seem so easy for another mom we know or another mom that that we see on social media, what have you. And everything seems to be together all the time. They wake up and the hair is beautiful as soon as they get out of bed, and all the lunches are packed. And those things are blessings. And we're not in any way minimizing those things, but I always like to bring the total the total picture, the total perspective that yes, as we've said, motherhood is indeed a blessing from the Lord. And we definitely receive these blessings wholeheartedly. And in doing so, we are honest about the fact of both its beauty and its struggles. I really
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
that.
Which brings us to another point. So, motherhood does come with so much joy, but it comes with really hard days. I want you to tell us about a season that stretched you as a mother when you had to find strength in God in the middle of it.
And late 2019, I was pregnant with my third and youngest child, my son. And while I had all three of my children prematurely, he was shaping up to be the earliest premature baby that I would have. And when I got the news that I needed to go into the hospital because I had preeclampsia, I had to go in early, not too long after Christmas of 2019 to be exact. I found myself really panicking and really scared because I did not know what to expect. This time around, it was a different picture for me, Anna. Whereas with my two daughters, who I had in my early 30s, here I am now having my son at 43 years old. So you were talking definitely over a decade since the last time I had given birth. And definitely, as I mentioned, also coupled with that, the preeclampsia, the health concerns, the health scares,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
taking all of those things, those factors into consideration. And I remember as they were rolling me in the wheelchair into the area for labor and delivery or potential labor and delivery, if you will. I just remember, honestly, I was panicking. I'm not going to sit here and lie and suggest that I
Yeah.
full of faith in that moment because if we're honest, I was not. I was very scared. And for me, God often speaks to me and brings things to my attention through what I see. And there was a person, a woman who worked in the hospital, Anna, and she had a tattoo on her forearm that said, "Stay strong." Coincidence? Probably not. Joshua 1 and 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong. Do not be dismayed. Do not be discouraged. For I, the Lord your God, will be with you wherever you may go. And so in that moment, the Lord was reminding me of strength that I honestly did not feel that I had in that moment. Because to be quite honest, in that moment, I did feel that I was being stretched beyond my capacity. And in that moment, the Lord saw me for who He desired me to be, not for who I felt like in that moment that I was experiencing. But it was almost like when the Lord looked at David, He didn't look at him as a small child who was not able to produce a victory or
Yeah,
have a
yeah, yeah.
victorious outcome. So the Lord saw me in that moment as the strong woman that He designed me to be, even though I could not see me as that strong woman in that moment. And so as He brought to my remembrance Joshua 1 and 9 in that moment, that was one of the scriptures that carried me through this time when I would end up being in the hospital for several days. But the beautiful thing about the Lord during that time, and quite honestly, was even though this was a much earlier birth, if you will, for my son, everything the Lord designed in his perfect time. Because the word also tells us that at the right time, the Lord will make it happen in
Yeah.
Isaiah 60. And so what ultimately happened was that my son was born New Year's Day. My birthday is New Year's Eve. My son was born New Year's Day of 2020. He was scheduled to be born February 18th of 2020. Unbeknownst to me and everyone at that time, not soon after he was born, of course, because he was a premature baby, obviously he had to go to the NICU, but he also ended up needing a very important surgery for double
Mm.
hernia repair. And so had he been born February 18th, there would have been a number of factors to consider. So keep in mind, he was born New Year's Day. He ended up being in the NICU for about 21 some odd days thereafter. He had his surgery in early February of 2020 to do the double hernia repair, to have the double hernia repair. And then he had his follow-up to that at the latter part of February 2020, just before the world shut down for COVID.
That's incredible.
Look at our God, Anna, in that moment.
Yeah, what a testimony. That is amazing. Look at God's faithfulness to you in the midst of your suffering and your sorrow. Like you feel like your whole world is falling apart. Nothing is going according to plan. Yet God in his goodness gave you a better plan than the one you had wanted yourself, than the ones the doctors would have told you would have been the right plan.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm just so incredibly thankful to God because had it been during or in the midst of COVID, there would have been so many considerations. A lot of surgical procedures were being stayed at that time. They were being
Right,
paused because of no one really knew what what were all of the different considerations that needed to come into play at that time because COVID was so new in the
right.
United States. So I thank God, as you said, for his faithfulness during that time. He was in the details, even when I did not see the full picture. And even to this day, I am still thankful. I'm still thankful.
I love it. And one of the things that just stands out in your testimony about God's faithfulness is down to even like the details in the tattoo of the person who is taking care of you.
Yeah,
We have scripture, which is absolutely true and which comforts us. But I love how God uses the things that are happening all around us to remind us of his word and of his promises. And whereas
yes,
somebody would say, oh, it was just a coincidence, if we know the God that we serve, we don't believe in coincidences. We believe that he is
absolutely.
orchestrating everything, even the
Yeah,
tiniest details for our good and for his
yeah,
glory. I love your story. What an encouragement for anybody listening right now who is struggling with a story that is hard, that maybe a story that is not going the way they thought it should have, or that feels like maybe God isn't there and doesn't see their pain. It's such a good reminder to trust God in the midst of hard things and to be aware and to look for Him. What are the things happening around us right now where we can see God is speaking to us? Maybe even if it's through the tattoo of somebody next to you. We know He
yeah,
always speaks to us through His word. So if you are afraid and you think God isn't speaking to you, open the Bible. We know He's speaking to His people.
absolutely.
That's the ultimate sense of comfort and the authority in our lives. But yet he uses everything around us to speak to us every day because that's the
Yes,
kind of father he is. He's so good. I
yes,
love
yes.
your story. That is so beautiful. I'm sure you share that every chance you get, don't you?
I'm telling you, it's just every time I think about how things unfolded in 2020, because I'm the first to always tell people a lot of times, unfortunately, babies born in 2020 get called, what are they called? Pandemic babies. And
Yeah.
I don't really subscribe to that term because I know it has a very negative connotation, and I'm very careful with the words that I try to be careful with the words that I choose and speak specifically as it pertains to my children.
Yeah.
And everything God did in that moment Anna was just amazing. Like I said, I'm still incredibly grateful to him.
I love it. That is a beautiful story. There have been so many stories in my own motherhood journey where I have seen God take scenarios that were so devastating or so hard and use them for good. I think that all of us, if we look back on our life journey, we can see that ways that God has been providing for us, like again and again, just showing us his faithfulness, showing us his goodness, showing us his kindness. And we
Mhm.
just have to open our eyes and see. For me, pregnancy was always extraordinarily hard. I had hyperemesis gravidarum with every pregnancy I had. So basically, it's like you turn into the exorcist for 9 months and you can't
Wow.
stop vomiting. Everything you try to take in just comes right back out. You're very weak and sick, and you have to go to the hospital and get IV fluids. It's extremely difficult to carry your baby to term. But I found that in the midst of those seasons when I was so sick and so emptied of myself, that God was so present and so kind and so good. And every time I gave birth at the end of that season, I would just love my baby with the same love, even as if it hadn't been so difficult to bring that child into the world.
Mhm. Yes.
And I
It's
would
like
just,
we forget about it once the baby's here. We
yes,
just
yes,
so in love
yes.
with our baby. So yes, I get it.
And in the Bible where it talks about like right now, it's like the whole world is in like labor pains until the coming of God's kingdom to earth.
Yeah.
That means something so much to me because bringing my children into this world has every time has been full of lots of difficulty and lots of suffering. But yet I remember every time that baby was born, it was just pure bliss. It was pure joy. It was amazing. It was like instantly over and it was worth everything that I put into it. And so I love that as mothers, we get to share these hard stories, these struggles, but we're telling a greater picture of
Yes,
God bringing his
absolutely.
kingdom to earth and restoring everything and giving people hope, saying it may be hard now, but it's going to be better. It's going to be worth it. The joy that's coming doesn't compare with the hard that we feel right now. And like, how good is that to know when we're here and we love our children, but sometimes things are just really hard right now and not
Right.
perfect yet. So if you could sit across from a mom who feels like she's barely holding on right now, what would you want her to know in the season of hardship?
I would want that mom to know the same thing that the Lord used someone to remind me just under a year ago. And that is simply, you are a good mom. And not only are you a good mom, but you are the perfect mom that God specifically designed and selected to be the mom of the children he blessed you with. I would also say, if you feel that you are really hanging on by a thread, it's fine to take a break. We hear there's the saying that's very popular, you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's very true. And a lot of times when we think about that, we think of it usually in terms of the physical aspect of that saying and the emotional aspect of that saying. But also, there's spiritual implications there. We cannot pour from an empty cup as moms, even when it comes to our lives spiritually. So, what does that look like? To get your cup filled, mom, get into the presence of the Lord.
Yes.
And you know what? Nothing about that has to be mundane or boring. You got a favorite park you enjoy, like I do, a favorite walking path? Get out there, put your earbuds in, your AirPods, put on your favorite worship music, and get out there and enjoy the Lord's presence as we enter, especially now as we're entering into a new season of spring. If you enjoy being with the Lord at your favorite lake or reservoir, if you live near a body of water, you can do things that are out of the box that will help to refresh you, because the Lord will refresh you as you encounter his presence. So
Yes.
my encouragement to you, mom, would be, don't pour from an empty cup. But remember, that's not just limited to the physical aspect or to the emotional, but take care of yourself spiritually. Spend time in the Lord's presence. And that means that you're going to have to do it with intentionality, just as we're intentional with penciling in our kids' activities. We have to be intentional with also setting aside time to be in the Lord's presence. So that might look like worship for you. That should look like prayer, spending time in His Word. But again, it can be at your favorite place. It could be at a park. It could be sitting at a lake or at a body of water, a reservoir. It can be something that is totally unorthodox, totally out of the box. It does not have to be boring. It does not have to be dry, because as you encounter God, as you really spend time in the Lord's presence, you will begin to find that nothing about the Lord is boring. The Lord enjoys us just as much as we learn to enjoy Him. He loves spending time with us. Nothing about Him is boring. So get time, spend time encountering His presence. Let Him refresh you, mom, and be intentional about setting aside time daily to allow the Lord to pour into you. That would
I
be my
love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I agree with you. Like, spending time with the Lord can look different for the season of life you're in, and we can be creative in how we spend time with Him. When your kids are younger and they're busy, like putting in those headphones and listening to like your Bible on audio or listening to worship music while you're chasing them.
absolutely. Yes.
Totally okay.
Yes.
I think there's like this false idea that to be a mom who's godly and who loves Jesus, to spend time with Him is to always sit down, to light a candle in the quiet and be all alone. In motherhood, it doesn't always look
Totally
like
get out of the
that.
box. Exactly. I agree, Anna. I agree.
Yeah, no, that's there's so much wisdom in what you shared. And another thing is just for moms to know that they're not alone. We are made to
Absolutely.
live in community with other Christian women. And we need to surround ourselves with people who love Jesus and who are pursuing His word and who are loving their families, who are loving their kids, who are loving their husbands. It doesn't mean that we exclude the people that aren't on the same path as us, but we are formed by the community that we share our lives in. And it's
Absolutely.
so important to be with women who nourish our spirits and that encourage us just to love our husband and our kids, because it's not always easy to be a mom. And if you're around people that are negative and that are always saying things that are unhelpful or that are unkind or that are discouraging, you find yourself picking that up. Instead, we want to be women of faith, women of hope, women of love and grace. And it
Yeah.
really starts by being transformed by the word, right?
Absolutely.
And then being transformed by the community that we choose to be part of.
I
And
agree.
we need each other because it is not easy to be a mom by any
No.
means.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially I cannot emphasize what you just mentioned about
Mhm.
community. The scripture says that be wise and you'll become wise. Entertain fools and you'll become one of them.
Yes, it's so
So it
powerful.
is important. Our communities matter. Being around other Christian moms, like you said, who are loving God. And it's not a competitive path, because
No,
we're not always going to be on the same path or at the same maturity as it relates to our walk with God. And that's okay. That's why community is a healthy community is so necessary, because all of us will not necessarily our race will not look the same, or our paths will not necessarily look the same as it
right,
relates to where we are in our walk or level of maturity in God. But with a healthy community, you can be Anna and I can be Chanelle, and
right.
that will be completely okay. There will be no competition. We will love on each other. We will be there to lift one another as part of a healthy Christian community. So I totally agree with what you said. I think that community is definitely very vital.
Yeah, I love this conversation so much, and all these thoughts are just so powerful because they're transformative. If we truly believe that God wants a relationship with us and we spend time with Him and become more like Christ, and then surround ourselves and our children with people who love God and who are pursuing Him, just imagine how much your entire worldview would shift, how
Yes.
much you would be just encouraged towards goodness and faith in the midst of times that are obviously challenging. Like when your
Yeah.
baby doesn't sleep at night, It's hard to be a gracious person the next day.
Absolutely.
When your toddler's in a terrible twos, it's just miserable because there's a lot of hard training going on. And as you
Yes.
train your children, God's disciplining and training you because you're struggling with the same attitudes sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Yes. I'm laughing hard thinking about those sleepless times. That was always the hardest for me.
Oh, that's
Yes, the
so
Lord
hard.
was definitely helping me in
And if
those
you're
moments
listening,
because
it gets better if you have a baby. We're both out of the baby stage.
yeah, yeah,
Those times are really tough, but
yeah.
they're also beautiful. Chanel, thank you so much for sharing your heart today. Before we wrap up, can you tell us one thing that is just bringing you joy right now? It can be something simple or little. It doesn't have to be deep, just whatever comes to mind.
I would say probably the newness of the new season. That's probably the best way for me to frame it. My oldest daughter is 17 and she's a senior in high school, so she'll be graduating and beginning her new journey in with respect to college in the fall. And then my son, who I shared the testimony with early, will have his new season as he starts kindergarten this fall. So there'll be a lot of different news for our family, new starts, if you will, for our family this year. So that's definitely bringing me a lot of joy in this season.
Yes, I can imagine. And I think when you have like a child that's older and then a child that's younger, there's something about being a more experienced mom where
Yeah.
you've done it before. And so I think those little years, when they come back around, maybe even unexpectedly, you savor them more because you
Yeah.
know how fast they grow up and you can just really be present and love them and just embrace them and in a way, get a chance to do it over in a way that maybe you would wish to do it differently with your older kids.
Exactly. I agree. It's funny because I thought about that as part of our conversation today, the saying that time flies. And
Mhm.
it surely does. Time really does fly when you have children. And so you're absolutely right. That is important for us as moms to really be as present as we can. And that's not a perfection thing. You do it with the grace of God helping you, but just to be present and really to enjoy and savor those moments because time really does fly before you know it.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
17-year-old, I can still remember when she started preschool. I can remember her first day of kindergarten, and I'm sure moms listening to us can this resonates with them and they can relate. And now we're getting ready to prepare for graduation. I mean, where did this time go? Really?
Yeah, yeah, I know. I love it. I think that's precious. I've got one daughter who's older, who's out of high school, and then one that's towards the end of high school. And so I completely can imagine how it feels to be doing that at the same time as
Yeah.
kindergarten and how
Yeah.
sweet, though, and how precious that is. Because I remember when mine were in kindergarten and how innocent they were. And I love those hugs that I used to get when
Oh
they were
my
that
goodness.
age. They are the very best.
Yes. And I was teasing my middle kid is a girl, and I was teasing her the other day because I said, "Oh my goodness, I actually get to start writing the little lunch notes again, like I used to write you in little in elementary
Yes,
school, rather,
yes.
the little notes that
Yeah.
we put in lunch for them when they go to school in the morning." I said, "I get to start that over with all over again." But the beauty this time and the learning curve for me this time will be with a boy kid. So I'll be learning a lot of that'll be new for me as well. Learning, okay, with the girls, there was one way to do it, but now this new season with him starting kindergarten and all of the newness that will come with his experience, his particular experience, I'll get to learn a lot too.
I
Yes.
love it. That just warms my heart just to hear it and to think about it. That's just so precious. And I think, what a beautiful just journey you've been on from seeing him born out of a season of just darkness and struggle, but then just to see like how God is using him just to be a light and a joy to your family into
Yeah.
your life right now. And isn't that just like God to take a story that starts so hard, but then to make it just so sweet and so good and just a testimony of his faithfulness, like again and again through many seasons.
God is truly faithful. I'm so thankful to him. He is truly faithful.
I love it so much. Friends, I hope this conversation with Chanelle and I has encouraged you today. If this has been a blessing to you, please let us know. Just like you, we find encouragement from others and seeing the ways that God is using our stories to bring hope to other women. So, if you are a Christian woman and you are looking for a community of like hearted women to help you find peace and purpose after tragedy, connect with me online on Facebook or on Instagram. I'll drop the links below to make sure that you can find me. And until next time, remember you are seen, you are loved, and God's grace is always enough.
And friends, if you as a mom would like for someone to walk alongside with you during this season of motherhood, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love for you to be part of Graceful Living for Christian Moms. All of the information will be available in the link below.
Thanks so much, Chanel. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Anna. I have really, really enjoyed this conversation today.
I have loved it so much, Chanel. Thank you for offering your wisdom and just encouraging other Christian moms. It's a blessing. I hope everyone who's listening will go forward in peace and hope today. God bless you all.
God bless you.